Okay, here's our next definition, floor anchor. Floor anchor, it says sea anchor. We will, and under anchor in the SDI glossary, it's probably going to list a whole mess of anchors. A floor anchor, it's either it better be there or it better not be there. Okay, for sure one of the two. It better be there or it better not be there, depending on your application. It's always going to come on masonry frames, and it's never going to come on drywall frames. Floor anchors are welded to the bottom of the jamb, and the flat flange parallel to the floor is within the throat area. There are times in a contractor by the name of Stolson Construction, his name was CB. I know that CB has passed away, but he always wanted knockdown drywall frames for masonry applications. Because he would take that masonry wall, line it with wood, and go in with a drywall frame. And then he would pierce through it and use like number 14 wood screws. And he'd tell me, you know what, I want you to reverse that floor anchor. And I said, CB, now why do you want me to do that? I says, reverse the floor anchor, like cut it out and turn it around and weld it so it sticks out. He says, yeah, I want you to do that. I says, tell me why. He's like, well, here's what I do. When I get that frame in place and I can then go through that floor anchor right into the floor, I know that I'm rock steady at the bottom. Because in an existing opening, as you know, you can't get inside that throat to shoot into that floor anchor. So in existing openings, you don't need a floor anchor, although it's okay for it to be there. He says, well, I want you to I says, well, I can cut it out and weld a new one in. He's like, that's what I want you to do. I says, well, what are you going to do about the floor anchor? He's like, you're selling me a threshold. It's going to sit right on top. He says, the only thing you got to be sure to sell me is a 5-inch wide threshold. And CB was definitely, he was a lifelong project manager. I don't know if he didn't work for Stolson. Stolson was a contractor. I'm sure they were still in business. They were, I think, on Grand Avenue in Chicago, just east of Cicero. And their specialty was actually religious organizations. They did a lot of churches. They did a lot of religious organizations. They also did school work, and they also did the small stuff too, like where CB would need a frame like this. So a reverse floor anchor is neat, and I've used it. I just took his idea and I've offered it to other people, because a customer would say, yeah, I'm not really happy with that jam down at the bottom. I says, well, and here's an opportunity to upsell. I says, let's reverse those floor anchors. Doesn't cost much for us to do the work. And then come with your threshold and it'll sit right on top of it. You'll never even know it's there. And I love that idea. So floor anchor, what is it used for? So it's always going to come on masonry frames. Masonry frames are typically meant to be used in applications that are not partition walls. The differentiation between a masonry frame and a drywall frame is that a masonry frame, not meant for partition walls, drywall and studs, it's going to have a floor anchor, and there's going to be dust boxes behind the strike and the hinges. If you're doing partition work, like a men's room and a women's room at your local, fast food restaurant, that's going to be knocked down drywall. Those walls are already up. You can't have the dust boxes or the floor anchors in the way of sliding the jambs over the wall. So like I said, they better not be there in certain instances. Where you do want them all the time is in new masonry wall construction, where the mason, very typical for a Chicago mason, Italian descent, very common, Greek descent, Polish descent, come in and order, I need 12 3070s, 4-inch heads, welded, and I need them on the job site in 10 days. And I'd say, thank you for calling 10 days in advance, because usually they want it delivered tomorrow. And in that scenario, what's going to happen is you're going to whip up them frames, take them over to the job site. Don't forget the anchors when you load the truck. I used to get into stretch wrapping the anchors to the frame so we can't forget it. I would walk out to the dock after the driver had left. I got into a habit of walking out to the dock after the driver left and look around. A couple of times, that box is still there. I open it up, sure enough, the anchors are in it. Got to call the guy. And back then, in the early 90s, it wasn't a cell phone, it was a pager, it was a beeper. So we developed a list of codes. So if I dialed the number and I put in a 911 or whatever, it wasn't 911, but it was code 7. That meant pull over and call me. or code 5 meant turn around wherever you are and return to the shop. So he didn't have to stop and find a payphone. So I would have to text the guy and say, yeah, you need to come back. You forgot the anchors, because without the anchors, it's useless. There have been times when he's been so far, we'd have to get in the car and he'd be at the job site just finishing unloading, and we would pull up with the box of anchors. I got to a point where I was just stretch wrapping them. So Mason gets the 12 frames on the job. They're going to take them and place them on the concrete slab. They're going to shoot them with a pneumatic powder actuated, is what I want to say, tool, into the subfloor. They're going to stick there. They're going to stay there, hopefully. Hopefully that the frames are true plumb, level, and square. The spreader bars are still on. And then they're going to build up their courses of block on each side. They're going to be backfilling with a trowel. That's where the dust boxes absolutely come in. So floor anchors must be there. Otherwise, they've got no way to have the frame sit in position. You'll have 4 anchors holding that jam in place. Your courses of masonry come up. You're backfilling. Dust boxes are good. And you're great. So that's an application where they better be there. Otherwise, I had a customer call me. I gave him a quote for all the hollow metal. He gave the job to somebody else because I was probably $6 higher per 1,000, and that distributor supplied drywall frames on the masonry openings, and he's like, I'm trying to hang my doors and my hinge screws don't go in. And well, I knew why that was, because I says, well, what's, he's like, it looks like it's all filled in there. And I said to myself, yeah, your mason probably got masonry behind there. I don't recall what happened. He just used me for technical support is all it was, and I don't believe I sold to him again. So that's an application of where they better be there. So floor anchor is just part and parcel of the greater overall scenario. Let's switch to the screen view, and let's take a closer look at this floor anchor. Actually, before we do that, let me go get a floor. I'll get that after the screen view. Let's go to the screen view. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Alright, floor anchor, C anchor. Let's go up to the beginning of the catalog. Anchor, a device provided inside a jam, head, sill, or mullion used to secure the frame to the adjacent structure such as wall, ceiling, or floor, also referred to as a jam anchor, wall anchor, floor anchor, etc. See listing. Okay, so adjustable floor anchor. Oh, this is a floor anchor. These are nice. I've only really used them once or twice, maybe even to the point where I wouldn't even stock them. They were so uncommon. And where you would use an adjustable floor anchor is if you had a hollow metal frame and that your floor condition was grossly out of level. So that floor anchor is going to sit here. Well, it'll sit here. Okay. The adjustable anchor can sit here, can sit here, can sit here, can sit here. It's got you can adjust where that horizontal plate comes down. And it's never as gross as I'm showing here, but that's what an adjustable floor anchor is for. So that if you do have that condition, adjustable floor, compression anchors, existing wall, fixed floor, masonry strap and stirrup, masonry T, masonry wire, mullion, poured in place, sill, steel stud, wood stud, applied stop. Where is floor anchor? Oh, okay, fixed floor. Okay. This is it. Fixed floor. A metal device attached to the bottom of the frame to secure a frame to the floor. Also referred to as a base anchor. Sure, yeah, I've heard that term. Sill anchor. I'm usually not thinking of a floor anchor as a sill anchor. I'm usually thinking of a sill anchor as a means by which to attach a piece of hollow metal horizontal to the floor that might be 4, 8, or 12 inches tall. That is the sill below a borrowed light or below a side light. I might be thinking of sill anchor for that. But a floor anchor is pretty common. Everyone will know what you mean by that. It is a base anchor. And I can't say that I've heard sill anchor used, but nonetheless, there it is. So it'll be welded into the back of the frame, unless, of course, you cut that off and turn one around, as I had showed before. And that's what that is. Alright, let's switch to the camera view and I'll show you what a floor anchor looks like. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Okay, my good friends at Gulfport Industries donated an FR140B for this. That's their part number for this floor anchor, base anchor, sill anchor. This is pretty narrow. This is going to be for probably a 4 3/4 jam depth. What we got here? Yeah, 4 3/4 jam depth. That's 3.5 inch. The part that's welded to the back of the frame is about 1 5/16 inches. Its projection about 1 3/8 inches. Let me show you what it would look like when it's installed. I have a perfect size for this. There you go. You want a reverse floor anchor? Love it. That's what it's going to look like. Very uncommon, but nonetheless, it's steel. You can cut and weld it, no problem. So that's what a floor anchor is going to look like. Why is there this big hole here? I don't know. It's there for a reason. It could also be, so 2 little holes for your powder actuated tool, obviously, here and here. That could be, if I was going to run conduit through the frame, I might want to brace it. Welding this to the throat of the frame as you come down from the header, be a nice way to feed that conduit right through that hole. I'm just guessing as to why that hole is there, but it's there for a reason. It could have something to do with the manufacturing process. I don't know why, but you know, when it's a piece of steel doing more work, like CNC machining, the less work you do to it, the less work you do. So that's there for a reason. They didn't do it just because they like round holes. Okay, the next definition is floor clearance. Let's talk about floor clearance. Thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up. Please subscribe and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.